The FIA has just dropped a championship-altering bombshell that threatens to completely derail McLaren's title ambitions. What initially appeared to be Oscar Piastri's fortunate escape from serious consequences following his Baku Grand Prix yellow flag violation has now transformed into the team's most critical crisis of the 2025 season. During the Azerbaijan Grand Prix weekend, Piastri found himself under intense scrutiny from race stewards, following a potential yellow flag breach when Pierre Gasly ran wide at turn 1. Yellow flags are sacred in Formula 1, and ignoring them traditionally results in severe penalties that can completely reshape championship battles. McLaren fans initially breathed a collective sigh of relief when the stewards ruled that while Piastri was technically in breach of regulations, mitigating circumstances warranted only a reduced penalty. However, the FIA has now confirmed additional penalties stemming from this incident, fundamentally altering the championship landscape. The governing body's decision to revisit and impose further sanctions represents an unprecedented move that catches McLaren completely off guard. This additional penalty directly impacts Piastri's championship lead and creates immediate grid position implications for upcoming races, potentially costing crucial points in what has become an extraordinarily tight title fight. The technical violation centered around Piastri's failure to adequately slow down during yellow flag conditions at turn 1. Race stewards determined that despite mitigating circumstances initially considered, the breach warranted more severe consequences upon further review. The FIA's decision aligns with similar incidents throughout the 2025 season, where yellow flag violations have resulted in significant penalties including grid drops and championship point deductions. This development dramatically shifts the psychological dynamics within McLaren's garage, particularly affecting Lando Norris, who currently trails his teammate by 31 points in the championship standings. Norris, who suffered his own setbacks during the Baku weekend, including a costly crash at turn 4, now finds himself in an unexpectedly advantageous position as external circumstances work in his favor rather than his own performance limitations. Norris had been desperately seeking ways to close the substantial points gap, knowing that every race from now until the end of the season is a must-win opportunity. His Baku weekend began promisingly when he topped FP1, but his subsequent crash into the wall at turn 4 represented more than mechanical damage. The incident was a dent in his championship hopes and reinforced narratives about Piastri being cleaner, sharper, and better under pressure. The intra-team rivalry that has defined McLaren's 2025 campaign now faces unprecedented strain. Can McLaren manage their two drivers without tearing their own campaign apart? Becomes the fundamental question determining their championship fate. Historic precedent shows teams have imploded under similar pressure, with internal rivalries destroying otherwise dominant campaigns when external penalties and setbacks create additional stress points. McLaren's management faces an impossible balancing act. Any appearance of favoritism toward either driver risks accusations of bias, while the championship strategy becomes increasingly complicated with Piastri now carrying penalty baggage. The team must navigate these treacherous waters while maintaining competitive focus against Ferrari and Red Bull, who remain ready to capitalize on any McLaren missteps. Ferrari demonstrated their lurking threat during the Baku practice sessions, where Lewis Hamilton finally appeared comfortable in the red car. Hamilton's fastest lap, just 0.074 seconds ahead of Charles Leclerc, marked Ferrari's first meaningful practice 1-2 in months. For Hamilton, this represented more than just pace. It was vindication after struggling with braking and setup issues during his adaptation period. Even Hamilton acknowledged the session's complexity, with his comment, "Thank the Lord," reflecting both relief and release from previous frustrations. However, Leclerc provided brutal honesty about McLaren's underlying pace, stating that their unfinished laps looked frightening, and predicting, "We will all be very surprised tomorrow." This assessment proved prophetic, as McLaren's raw speed remained evident despite their various setbacks. The championship mathematics now undergo significant recalculation. Piastri's additional penalties create opportunities for both Ferrari and Red Bull to close gaps that previously seemed insurmountable. Red Bull, despite their own struggles, maintains the capability to capitalize on McLaren's internal chaos, particularly if the team's focus becomes divided between managing driver relationships and maximizing performance. The psychological impact extends beyond immediate point consequences. Piastri's image as the clean championship contender now carries controversy, potentially affecting his mental approach to future races. Media narratives have shifted from celebrating his consistency to questioning his judgment under pressure. This represents exactly the kind of momentum shift that can define championship battles in their final stages. McLaren's 2025 campaign now teeters on a knife's edge. Under the immense weight of a title fight, even the smallest crack can become a fracture. And Piastri's penalty situation represents exactly such a crack. The team's ability to maintain unity while fighting on multiple fronts will determine whether they secure their first championship in over a decade or watch it slip away through internal dysfunction. The ripple effects extend throughout the paddock. Ferrari suddenly finds themselves with renewed championship hope, while Red Bull calculates their own strategic opportunities. Norris faces the delicate balance of capitalizing on his teammates' misfortune without appearing opportunistic, while Piastri must demonstrate resilience in the face of adversity that threatens to derail his championship charge. Formula One history provides stark warnings about teams that allow internal rivalries to destroy championship campaigns. McLaren now joins that list of teams facing the ultimate test of organizational strength. Their response to this crisis will define not only the 2025 championship outcome, but potentially the careers of both Norris and Piastri. The Azerbaijan Grand Prix weekend that began as McLaren's statement of dominance has transformed into their greatest challenge. Every crash carries the weight of potential championship consequences, and now regulatory penalties carry equal weight in determining the final championship standings. The ripple effects extend throughout the paddock like seismic waves from an earthquake's epicenter. Ferrari suddenly finds themselves with renewed championship hope, transforming what seemed like a distant dream into tangible reality. Lewis Hamilton's resurgent performance in Baku, where he finally appeared comfortable in the red car, now carries exponentially greater significance. His fastest lap being just 0.074 seconds ahead of Charles Leclerc wasn't merely a practice session highlight, it was a declaration that Ferrari remains a legitimate threat when circumstances align in their favor. Red Bull calculates their own strategic opportunities with the precision of master chess players. Despite their own struggles throughout 2025, they possess the institutional knowledge and championship experience to recognize when rivals are vulnerable. McLaren's internal chaos creates exactly the kind of opening that Red Bull has historically exploited to devastating effect. Their ability to remain patient while competitors self-destruct has defined multiple championship campaigns. Norris faces the delicate balance of capitalizing on his teammates' misfortune without appearing opportunistic, a tightrope walk that could define his career trajectory. Every public statement, every on-track maneuver, and every strategic decision will be scrutinized for signs of disloyalty or unsportsmanlike behavior. The 31-point championship deficit that previously seemed insurmountable now appears conquerable, but only if Norris can navigate the political minefield without damaging his reputation or team relationships. Piastri must demonstrate resilience in the face of adversity that threatens to derail his championship charge at its most critical juncture. The Australian driver, who has built his 2025 campaign on consistency and clean racing, now carries the burden of controversy. His ability to compartmentalize external pressure while maintaining the performance standards that established his championship lead will determine whether he emerges stronger or crumbles under scrutiny. McLaren now joins that list of teams facing the ultimate test of organizational strength. The difference between championship glory and catastrophic failure often comes down to leadership's ability to manage human dynamics while maintaining competitive focus. Team principal Andrea Stella and the entire McLaren hierarchy must now prove their crisis management capabilities under the most intense pressure Formula One can generate. The Azerbaijan Grand Prix weekend that began as McLaren's statement of dominance has transformed into their greatest challenge. Every crash carries the weight of potential championship consequences, and now regulatory penalties carry equal weight in determining the final championship standings. The FIA's decision to impose additional penalties on Piastri represents more than administrative action. It's a championship game-changer that could rewrite the entire narrative of 2025's title fight.